Could everyone please rise for the pledge and then remain standing? I'd like to dedicate tonight's moment of silence to our Sachem alumni and friend, one of our former employees, Paul DiGregorio. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 3rd special meeting of the Sachem Board of Education. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Pelletieri for the superintendent's report.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm going to jump directly into our Sachem student return plan. Mrs. Hines, do you have the clicker for me? Can I steal that? Thank you so much. As you'll recall, last meeting, we made a decision to start to bring our students back based on the latest data. And our group here, along with teachers and operational folks, custodians, nurses, clericals, I'm going to get in trouble again because I'm going to leave someone out. I apologize, but just everyone came together and worked really well on this plan. I want to thank all of them for their contributions. What we plan on doing is having a phased-in approach to our student return. Many districts around us are starting this same type of approach to return their students. These are proposed dates. As we know already, March 8th, grades 6, 12, and our BOCES CTE students are being invited to return full-time. We're looking at March 22nd, 2 weeks later, for grades 8 and 11. And then April 7th, which is right after the break. That's why that's a little bit longer. There is a break, spring break in there, looking at April 7th for returning grades 7, 9, and 10. Now, there is a concern that I have that's been raised with others, and I have as well with April 7th, in that is 2 days after our spring break. And as we have seen throughout the year, around the breaks is when we get more and more cases. So I'm going to ask that we look closely and carefully at that April 7th date. And we may, as we move forward with these other dates, look to push that back maybe a week, push that out, perhaps maybe a week. Again, keep this tentative for now, but perhaps push that out a bit just to see if there is an influx of cases right after that break, as we have seen with other breaks in the district. The idea between this slower rollout, I wouldn't call it slow, but thoughtful rollout, I think, is just to step back and watch. Our staff will be out in the buildings, our administrators will be out in the buildings, and just see what happens as the students come back. We're very excited to have our students back. I know our teachers, administrators, everyone's excited to have our students back, but we just want to see what it looks like. And that's the idea behind going in this staggered way. I don't know if we want to go through it all and then questions, or do you want to stop? We'll just keep going. Okay. So it wasn't a matter of just, hey, tomorrow everyone come on back in. You have to be really thoughtful about some of the challenges that are posed by bringing everyone back in. We have to talk about social distancing, what we're going to use to protect our students and our staff. And we talked about physical barriers and desk shields, which we purchased, and we'll talk about that as we move forward in this. You have to consider transportation. What's lunch going to look like? All these things on here are going to look differently in a school that is full. What do the hallways look like? What's the cleaning protocols? What do we do about masks and mask breaks? What is the contact tracing? How does the impact going to be around that? What's going to happen with school closures if you have to go into distance learning because you have a number of cases? Remote instruction, how is that impacted? Will we be staggering bell schedules? Yes, we are. We're going to stagger bell schedules at North and at East. Those are our two schools with 2,000 kids each in them. Our middle schools will take a look at the roll-ins of our students and assess if, in fact, they need to stagger bells. The thought is initially we won't have to do that, but we will look at it. We will look at everything, and the priority, as always, will be safety, health, and welfare of our students and our staff. So initially, yes, you will have staggered bells at East and North, and we will look at it at the middle schools. We have to look at student arrival and departure, what that will look like. Our daily health screener is the bane of some people's existence. It is difficult to get the daily health screener done by parents and our community. And as a result, we've been calling down hundreds of students in our high schools and our secondary schools. We even called down dozens of students in our elementaries to take their temperatures. We're going to make a change to that tonight. You'll see that. What are the classroom spaces going to look like? What's going to be different? And what, if any, new guidance comes from the state? That is changing constantly. So a priority for us, as I said, and this is the first slide purposefully, health and safety. So we're going to have a change here. We are going to scan the temperature of all of our secondary students as they arrive, not just the ones that didn't fill out the daily health screener. I want you to please fill out the daily health screener. There are 3 questions in there that are important questions for you to answer. So that doesn't mean, well, now they'll just take my son's temperature and my daughter's temperature. I don't have to do the daily health screener. Please do the daily health screener. The temperature can be scanned. We purchased, I believe, 40 or so temperature scanners. They will be mounted on walls or on other devices as people enter the entryways to the 5 secondary buildings. These are wrist scanners. You could use your forehead or your wrist. I know people like to use their wrist now. So these are wrist scanners, and it will scan all the students coming in. We will space them out. So this way we'll know if anyone has a temperature of 100 degrees or more when they arrive. If they do, they would have to go to the isolation room. We would call mom and dad. They'd have to come up and get their child. If not, right off to class. We have hand sanitizer stations throughout the district. We'll continue to use them. A lot of these things are the things that have kept us safe already, and they will stay in place or they will be upgraded. We have MERV 13 filtration systems and HVAC systems. We have markings and signage. They've been up the entire, on the floors, on the walls, the entire years. They're still up. They're still effective. I still see the little ones marching through the halls on one side or the other. I see the high school kids as well. Mackenzie and Cameron, you're both here. Do you follow the markings on the floor, Mackenzie? How about you, Cameron? You do? You sure? I'm going to watch. Okay. Students, this is a big question for parents. We're going to have more students in, so the desks will be closer. How close? Will they be 3 feet, 4 feet, 5? Students will be as close as necessary for them to fit in that room. In some instances, in a handful of classes, some classes, they could still be at 6 feet. We measured it out. In some classes, in many classes, they will be closer than 6 feet. It will be 4, it will be 3, it will be 5. It will be what we need to have those students fit in that classroom. And anywhere students are closer than 6 feet, they will have a desk shield in their traditional classroom. They will have desk shields in the cafeterias. They will have, if we need to have face shields in areas where you can't have a desk shield, we will use face shields, like in a science lab where they're standing up looking at science, they can wear a face shield. So we will provide that. All of this will be provided by the district. Music, we bought special masks with slits in them so you could still play the instrument. We bought bell covers on the other end. People were using shower caps in places, things like that. These are professional, these are real PPE, and they will be distributed as well. Students will use hallway lockers. I know some places they were making the decision not to, some places they were allowing it. People will be able to use their hallway lockers. We can't hang out though. Cameron, Mackenzie, no hanging out, right? Do you hang out in the hall, Cameron? Not really. All right, that's another thing for me to check. Mackenzie, you don't hang out in the hall, right? You go right to class. I figured that. So, because you know why? We don't want kids hanging out in the hallway, right? I mean, it's just, it leads to problems. It always leads to problems. But even now, it could lead to problems because if you were too long around someone too close, that could be an issue. So we are going to let kids use lockers, but we've got to move along. And mask etiquette. I keep losing my mask tonight. This is a new mask, so keep sliding. We're going to ask kids to please be wear your mask appropriately. Staff, we're going to ask staff, please wear your mask appropriately as well. Sometimes you're in an office alone, people come in, we're going to make sure our mask is on. When someone comes in, if you're working with other people in other offices, please wear your mask. If you are a student in the buildings, please wear your mask. I see many people adhering to this. I appreciate that, but we need everyone to adhere to this. And of course, the hand washing, the hand sanitizing, all those types of things need to continue. Cleaning, imperative. We're going to continue the cleaning protocols as outlined by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Again, we have not had outbreaks in schools. We have not had spread in schools. We're going to continue those things that we've done. Yes, we will be closer. Yes, we will use desk shields as appropriate and allowed, and we will disinfect them daily. They'll be disinfected every single day, those desk shields. We will put disinfectant spray. I observed the teacher today, wonderful teacher. And right after classes, we were having a post-observation. She wanted to do her own. She had several desks that she wanted. She did her own disinfectant there. You don't have to do that. We have our custodians do disinfecting each day, but that teacher wanted to do that, and it is provided in our classrooms. We do sanitize bathrooms throughout the day and high-touch areas. I see our folks all day long walking around with the spray, wiping down door handles and lights and things such as that. Our buses are sanitized daily, and the drivers have wipes and spray bottles as well. And I'll be honest with you, if we need more custodial help, it's something that we'll look at. It's something that we spoke with the custodians around, and it's something that we'll do if need be. So, teaching and learning. Secondary students have the option to return full-time. Hybrid learning will end as each grade returns. So you will be in full-time or you will be full-time remote. We will live stream for remote students and quarantine students only. We're asking that people commit to their decision for the remainder of the year. I know it's an important decision, but we're asking that people commit for the remainder of the year. Our remote academy students, you have the option again, come back into school full-time if you wish, and you can transition with your grade. We must be cognizant of the fact that kids will be in class now for the first time with a full room. They'll be in halls with full cadre of students. And so we need to really be on point and be cognizant of the fact that kids may have concerns, may have fears. Yesterday I was in this class half a year, it's March. There were 8, 12 kids in the room. Now there's 22. How do I feel about that? Will my friends still like me that I had last year? All the things that go through kids' heads and minds, we have to be cognizant of. So I know our people all over this, our peer education activities, our social workers, our school psychologists, I know everyone will be prepared. Can I ask Mackenzie and Cameron, can I ask you guys for a second, how do you feel about the return of your peers? Are you looking forward to this? Are you concerned? How do you feel? Mackenzie will go first and then Cameron. Sure. I don't know. Mackenzie, no one heard what you said. No, I'm kidding. I want you to yes, you read my mind. Thank you. So you don't have to repeat it. I'm going to say that, Mackenzie, you are very concerned about our teaching staff, and I appreciate that. Yeah. You said you're going to become a teacher, right? What are you going to do? Do you know?
I'm going for biology, so I'm not sure yet.
I think you may end up back here. We talked about that at one time. I hope so. So yeah, communication between administration and teachers is really important, and supporting our teachers and making sure they know what's expected. It's hard to have kids in front of you and some kids on remote. It's not going to be easy. And I actually have seen that live and in person, and I know it's not easy. Teachers have done an incredible job. But you're really looking forward to seeing your friends in the hall. Well, not in the halls, right?
No,
in classes.
Right to class, yeah.
In class.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it'll be for mental health, it'll be amazing for senior morale. I know senioritis right about now is kicking in for the students.
Already?
So, yeah, but I think it'll boost morale and just overall be good for mental health. And so.
Awesome. Cam? This guy's getting ready for football season, I know, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. I thought we always should have had the option to return, but now I'm happy that, if you don't want to come back and you're afraid of some stuff, then you're perfectly fine at home. You can have all the remote learning at home. So, I think that's great that we have an option for it. And that if you want to return, you can return.
There are some people, Cameron, and we know that have grandma at home or grandpa, or may have some concern or that they just can't be in right now. And we respect that and we honor that. And that's why we built another system for it.
Yeah.
So people will have that option to be in or be out.
Yeah.
And I think that's really vitally important. But you looking forward to your friends
Yeah.
coming back as well?
Yeah, at least a few months of like a normal, somewhat normal senior year.
Oh
So
my
I'm
gosh, that'd
excited
be
for
great,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. I see a little mischievousness in your eyes there.
What?
You're looking forward to senior year in high school with all your buddies back, right?
Yeah.
Looking forward to both of you. We are as well. Okay, thank you. Transportation is obviously a concern and an issue. Our elementary routes, people don't realize this probably unless you have an elementary child in your home, those buses are kind of full already. So the windows will be open, the hatches will be open. We'll keep an eye on it. We will have seating charts. I mean, the big kids are not going to be happy about having a seating chart being told where to sit. I said to somebody the other day, save the back seats for the seniors, right? And then move them up the other way. What's happening is the sixth graders are actually coming back first. And then the eighth graders are coming back later. Those sixth graders may have to give up those seats to the eighth graders. We'll keep an eye on that. But we need to be cognizant of that. But we are going to have seating charts. We have to be thoughtful about where we are. We're going to want people sitting with their family members, of course. But beyond that, there will be times when kids are sitting closer than 6 feet, perhaps with someone that is not in their family. And that could lead to quarantines. We recognize that. So we have to be cognizant of that and be as safe as we can. And we're going to ask students to be in that assigned seat each day. Cam, do you take the bus or you drive yourself? You have a license? Okay, good. New York State license? Okay. Mackenzie, how about you? You drive yourself? I'm going to have to get a car for my son. He's going to be a senior next year. I've been trying to tell him nobody drives themselves. Everyone? I'm going to tell him not to watch this. No one takes the bus, so I shouldn't worry about the bus. No seniors. Okay, so then 11th graders will sit to the back. Is this for me? Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, for some reason I'm struggling. Excuse me. Oh, this is better. Thank you. Got my back. Thank you. That's interesting to know. How big is that lot over there? Is the lot in your school's full? Yeah. Are you both good drivers? You'd like to think so. How do your parents feel? They're probably up all night when you take their car out. Did you drive here tonight? Oh my gosh, Cameron. Be careful. I can tell already that you're like just driving around. No, okay. Please. Oh my gosh. Come on. Look, the entire building's knocking on wood right now, Cameron, for you. Don't say that. Mackenzie, have you seen Cameron drive? All right. Well, be careful. I'm sure he's good. I'm sure he's good. You too, Mackenzie. Okay. Yeah, please be careful. You got a lot to go, right? Your whole life ahead of you. Go slow. I feel like your dad. So we don't have to worry about the bus for seniors, but we will for our other kids. Okay. How old were you guys when you started driving? Okay, I'm checking, making sure. Okay. Contact tracing, really very important. This slide confuses some people when I show it the first time, but I'm going to walk you through it. The infected person on the left is in red. They're showing symptoms. They test positive. That person was around 3 other people, the blue folks you see in that next section. So we have to contact anyone that was near that infected person. And there were 3 people near them, right? If you follow on along and you see the 3 people near them. But of those 3, only the one directly to their left and directly to their right had to quarantine. The other one escaped quarantine. You see that? Does that make sense? Mrs. Hines is nodding, but I know we know this. I'm trying to see if 10 times we walked through this. Does it make sense? Because people had asked me, what will quarantine contact tracing look like? And this is exactly it. We get notified. We contact the folks that were around that person that they tell us. We check to see anyone for 10 minutes or more closer than 6 feet. And then those 2 people, like you see in this diagram here, have to quarantine. Yes. Yes.
So to be clear, one high schooler with a positive COVID result will not shut down 30 children in each of his classes of 8 periods a day.
No, there
Thank you.
could be a total of 30 at the end. I'm going to do that on the next slide, actually, this slide. But it won't automatically. So when this whole thing started back in September, October, when we had our first few cases, the Department of Health was put out everybody. They put out entire cafeterias for one student, 75 kids out. Every teacher that was around that child had to be out. All those things. We have learned, the Department of Health has learned to get tighter and tighter with that. So 10 minutes closer than 6 feet, 10 minutes closer than, with a desk shield, without a desk shield, whatever it is, if you are within 6 feet for 10 minutes or more, you're going to have to be out. So that's what this shows us here. A close contact is someone who is within 6 feet of an infected person for cumulative total of 10 minutes or more over a 24-hour period, starting from 2 days before illness or onset of positive test result. So in this piece here, you see the person in the stark red, the brighter red, they are our positive person, and they are in a classroom with all these other students. The people who are in the lighter shade of red are within 6 feet, desk shield or no desk shield, face shield or no face shield, mask, no mask. They are within 6 feet. And so in this instance, those 4 would have to be out because they're within 6 feet. However, the other folks who are in the gray here are further than 6 feet and would not have to be out. That's how we will be clarifying this. Now, could there be worst case scenarios that this repeats itself in all 7 of my classes throughout the day, or 6 classes? Yes. And I put out 4 people in all those classes. That could happen. I could have 24 to 30 people around me in one day having to quarantine because of that one case, because we are closer. So we must recognize that there may be more quarantines of students. I'm hoping staff, again, will be without outside that 6 feet, but there'll be occasion, as you know, throughout the year, we've had staff that have had to quarantine. So we need to prepare ourselves that there will be, I'm not going to say may, I believe there will be a greater number of students quarantined because we are closer. However, the benefits of having all of our students back in full, as the numbers drop for positive cases, we're hoping that those benefits, we're counting on those benefits of being back in full will outweigh the cost of those quarantines. Again, as we return, you will either be full-time in person or full-time remote, and these decisions are for the remainder of the year. There will no longer be a hybrid option. And I want to thank our partners in planning. As we know, our parents are being asked to send in their decision by March 4th. That is tomorrow afternoon or evening, because we're putting desks in classrooms. I don't know, like I'll go back to Mackenzie and Cameron. Have you noticed desks going into classrooms, desk shields going up in cafeterias and things like that? Have you noticed that, Mackenzie? Can you grab the mic again? Would you mind?
Yeah, there's definitely been like an increase in the amount of desks. So it kind of looks like how a normal classroom kind of looks. So,
Right.
And also I walked into a couple of my classes today and there were the desk shields up as well.
Okay.
So.
Have you sat behind a desk shield yet or anything like you have?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan. How do you feel about
No,
that?
yeah, it's a little annoying, especially when you're trying to see what the teacher's doing, and it's a little annoying. But it's for the health and safety. I'm sure the pros outweigh the cons on that. So,
Cameron, are you seeing this also at your building?
Yeah, I've seen more desks, but that's about it.
Okay, not shields as of yet.
No, not in my classes.
Gotcha. So yeah, I have actually sat at desk shield seats so I can see what it's like. And there are times you have to look through a couple of desk shields to get to see through the board. And again, I agree. It's not the greatest thing we've created. It's not something that we're excited about or think we're going to keep this beyond the pandemic. But as you said, Mackenzie, we just feel like the weight of getting everyone back in and using this precaution to do that. Districts have used desk shields throughout, not just here, but throughout really the country. I know in Nassau County, people were using desk shields before. We had different guidance here in Suffolk, but that has changed now. So we're able to use the desk shields, and people are doing it in a safe way. So that's what we'll be doing here in Sachem schools.
So what if like everyone comes back, it's all doing good? Are we able to get rid of those, or no? Are those going to stay in for us?
Cameron, I don't know. Should we have Cameron write his questions out before he just yells them out like that? What if it's a question I don't like, Cameron? What do you think? What should we do with desk shields if we're allowed to remove them?
Remove them.
Yeah, we will lose those faster than you drive your car. And I know you don't drive your car fast at all, right?
Yeah.
We've settled on that. We will get rid of those when we can. Yes, sir, without a doubt. Anything else, Cam?
No.
Okay, good. Mackenzie, you have questions? Okay, thank you so much. We met with our reentry committees. We met with operations, again, instruction. We met with the community, parents, students, supervisors, administrative leaders. I mean, you name them. We wanted to make sure that people played a role in this return. We are all in this together. We needed everyone to be at the table, and I want to thank everyone for coming to the table with ideas. We created a student return at sachem.edu email. I got close to 60 emails in that. I responded to many of them, not every single one of them. Some were just like, please be thoughtful of this or thoughtful of that. And we made sure that we were able to do that where we could. I will still accept more emails. That email account is still open if people want to send more ideas or questions or concerns, or even things that they say, hey, in my district, we did this and it worked. And I would appreciate that as well, because I know we have a lot of folks here that do work in other districts. Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, just before we call people out, yeah, just so I could see Jim and Laura. But I just want to thank Dr. Pelletieri and the entire cabinet for setting up all the meetings with all of the stakeholders. I know that not everybody had a chance to talk, but they at least had representatives from each of their groups to air concerns and give ideas. And I think you guys did a really, really nice job for us.
Thank you.
Please. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
You mentioned the health scanners in the entrances of all the buildings. Okay, will they be monitored? I know that the ones that we have at work will tell whether or not to pass or fail with the alarm. Will there be somebody there to monitor and make sure that students that maybe the temperature is lower or too high are going to be rescanned and not just passed through?
We will definitely have eyes on those and ears on those. Yes, as you know, it's really loud. Usually it blares when and it turns red and signals people. We will have people monitoring them. Yes.
Second question is, you had mentioned that it's very, very difficult for parents. They're not filling out the questionnaire. I know, once again, in work and education, we have a program called Health Badge. Okay, it makes it very, very convenient. Every single morning, it would be assigned to a student or an employee. They would click on it. This is my work badge. Okay, they click on it. Okay, it would bring them right to a health assessment. They would ask the 5 questions. They put their temperature in, and it would automatically register. And what would happen is that this would show up in the principal's office as to who completed and who didn't. Have we looked at anything something similar to this, to where it tracks and monitors and makes it a little bit more simple to calculate, easier for parents to do as well?
Ours, Mr. Scavo, is an email that opens. I can do it on my phone, on my work. I mean, I don't see it as a real hardship necessarily to get to or to fill it out. Anything that would make it easier. Different schools have different approaches in terms of calling parents or calling kids down to try and get, if it's something that's a health badge, I wrote it down. We'll take a look at it.
The other thing too is that students enter the high schools. Okay, they would actually have a green,
They could just show it.
and they would just show their ID that they did the health screening. It might speed the process up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if there's a cost associated with it and what that cost would be.
Oftentimes there are, but we'll take a look at it. Thank you.
As far as evaluating classrooms, we don't know exactly right now which classrooms are going to be at 20 and which classrooms are going to be at 32.
We don't have all the survey results back yet. We're putting desks in, yes, but we don't have all that.
My concern is that we're going to evaluate these classrooms, and if there should be a classroom that is under-enrolled or under-attended, and there's maybe 12 students in that classroom, and there's another classroom sitting at 32 that's smaller, do we have the ability to move students and move classes to accommodate the larger enrollment?
We do. And we shouldn't hesitate to do that where we can.
Right? And then wiping of shields.
So-
I know we're not wiping them, we're just disinfecting them.
Mhm.
Concerns about, I know we use Virex. Sometimes Virex leaves a glare and a streak. Makes it difficult for students to see through those shields. What would be, what would be necessary to have, possible staff wipe them down once or twice a week so that we don't run into a buildup of disinfectant?
It's amazing the staff that we have. Mr. O'Keefe came to my office. We tested it out to see what it would look like on a shield. We've had staff in buildings actually measure the time it took to wipe down a classroom full of shields. So we're looking at all our options around that. And as I said, if we need to bring in more substitute custodians or something like that because we see that there's an issue with wiping or lack thereof, but I assure everyone they will be disinfected each day. But if they get streaky or things like that, we do have some additional ones. I don't want to start switching them all out, but we'll look to wipe them down and do the best we can when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's not that they won't be wiped daily. It's just that we can't be assured that they're wiped daily, but we can assure you they'll be disinfected daily.
One last question. I did have more questions. My last question, and I'll just wait. Other people can have an opportunity. But students that may have disabilities, okay, that can't tolerate looking through multiple desk shields. Will any considerations or accommodations be given to children that cannot tolerate that in using a personal shield that will do the same thing?
Mr. Scava, you know us, you know our teachers, our administrators will do what it takes to help our kids. So if a child needs a face shield instead of a desk shield or something like that, we'll do everything within our power to make sure that they get what they need.
Thank you.
Mrs. Volpe?
So the first thing I wanted to ask is, do we have a way to contact those who have not returned their surveys? Surveys aren't always easy for every family to be able to partake in.
So currently out of the 2,600 we need back, we have, I think, close to 1,800. So we have a nice number back, but we still need more, right? So that went out again tonight, that survey. And we have a means by which to start. We did this the last time when we brought our ICT students back. We made phone calls. We started reaching out to people. And that's what we'll start to do in order to make sure that we know what's going to happen. We need to know who's coming and who's not, and who's going to remote and who's going to be there. We really need folks to respond to that. They can just shoot an email if the survey doesn't work or something like that, or contact the school. But we will be reaching out.
Okay, and then also with the temperature screenings in the morning, can you just kind of run through a little bit of what that may look like? Because I think some people may be thinking, oh my God, there's going to be this huge backup and kids are going to be.
Yeah, we can't allow that, right? We cannot have that because then they're stuck in yeah. So we're creating a scenario that we don't want to create, right? So we piloted it at one of the smaller schools, and kids, I mean, literally. Now this, I think they were using forehead or wrist, and they go right on by. I mean, you have to face it for a second or so. It beeps, it goes green, and you go. I mean, you hear it, and it's just next, and then red happens, and the whole world stops, and everyone stops and comes on. And they redo the test. Sometimes there's something happened or whatever, or if there is a high fever, then they go to the isolation room. We've had that happen. Called parents and brought them in. So that's another reason why we need to step back and not just have one group in one day, the next group the next day, and next group the next. We have to really step back and look at this and say, you know what, we're going to have to stagger the release of those kids from those buses. We're going to have Cameron and Mac, stay in their cars for a little bit or whatever. We'll have to figure out a way to do this so that they're not all stuck up.
And have we figured out like bus routes maybe needing to pick up 5 minutes early or something so that we can accommodate for this?
So our transportation, Mr. Cervone, Mr. O'Keefe are really experts at this. They will step back and take a look at this also. And that's one of the adjustments we may have to make. We'll have to obviously speak with parents about that. The timing of the buses is really essential in terms of where they have to go next. And so that might not be the solution, or it might be the solution. We'll figure it out.
And finally, as one of the biggest cheerleaders for this, I just want to thank everybody, because I know that my head goes crazy and thinks a million things. So I can't even imagine what it was like to really put this on paper and bring it to fruition. And I am so proud of everyone for all their hard work, for putting our children first, every single person in this community, kids first, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Please, Matthew.
Just a couple of things. So I know we touched upon it. Juniors, if they're in a senior class on March 8th, did we say that they were going to come in full time?
No, we did not.
Oh.
So what would happen is we would teach the group in front of us, all our seniors, and juniors would be live streaming in on those days that they're not there. So they are part of the class. They're still getting the lessons. They would, and then when juniors come in next, they would then obviously be there. But during that time, they would live stream into the class.
Okay. And then just the other thing, in my school, you said that lots of people are not doing the survey in the morning.
Yes.
And that can be, I know first period, it's a very annoying 20 minutes.
Calling kids
out all
down.
these names.
Yeah.
So what my principal started doing, and it really worked, is he'll get on the announcement and say, everybody get on your phones, call your parents, you have 10 minutes. And it really drastically reduces the amount of kids that have to go down to the office.
That's
So
interesting.
It works.
Yeah. All right. We'll give it some thought.
Thank you. And great job on this plan.
Sarah?
My only real concern is the April 7th return date, 3 days after spring break, because the data shows we have more cases. And I think the contact tracing for that is going to be a nightmare.
I'm looking at my chief contact tracer here, and she's got smiley eyes, which means she's concerned as well. And so I'd like to get our two groups in. I'd like for us to plan on the 7th, unless the will of everyone is, let's just change it now. We can do that. We could do it to that following Monday, which would give us then 5 days back after a break to at least see what's happening. I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, we didn't want to. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely comfortable with that.
Does anyone else have an issue with that?
Jim's raising his hand, but I would also say I'd like to leave it alone just because, why not? All science is pointing to sometime in April herd immunity anyway, so our numbers may not automatically be higher at the end of this break. So if we leave it alone and then under the understanding that if the numbers are high, we would go to that Monday. I just can't see putting that Monday in stone now, especially that 9th grade is in there. 9th grade's just as important as everybody else. So.
Every grade, I've heard from every parent. The only thing I haven't heard is the 7th grade parents. So if there's any 7th grade parents want to email me tomorrow to make an argument why 7th needs to go first. Otherwise, every other grade I've got covered. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, Jim, before I call you, and Sarah has another question. Matthew, where are you, April 7th or 12th? Leave it or move it now to the 12th? Okay. Yep. Meredith, you're good. Bill, you're good. I'm going to be good. Sarah, Laura? Can't hear you. You're muted.
You're muted, Laura.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what some of the people were saying.
Yep, we're talking about either leaving the date on April 7th or preemptively moving it to the 12th because after a break, the numbers have spiked in the past.
I would like to just see how the rollout goes before we change a date. So I'm comfortable leaving it at the 7th for now.
Perfect. Jim, I'm not calling you, but we have 5, so we're going to just leave it at April 7th for now and see how it goes.
I agree anyway, if you just want to put it down.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sarah.
And have we identified more staff to do contact tracing?
That is a great question, and I'm getting my smiley eyes again because staff needs to be prepared to do more contact tracing. That is without a doubt. And people have been strained already. So it will be a yeoman's task. It's not something I'm just sticking my head in the sand on. We need to be prepared for that. And so, yes, we have spoken with people and recognize that we are going to be all hands on deck when it comes to that. And it went up a little bit when we started talking about testing with athletes for our students as well, and had needed to identify some people, additional people, and that will happen again here, I'm certain.
Jim?
Chris, you did mention before that all the desk shields have been purchased already. Did I hear that right?
We purchased, I think, close to 10,000 desk shields, Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, total purchase will be about 13,000.
What was the cost of that?
John, you have that?
Just shy of $300,000.
Okay, is there any chance, I mean, you're not going to know this, John or Chris, but the COVID relief bill that the federal government is working on now, I did a little research on that bill, and in there is $3.5 billion for funds for physical barriers and other materials recommended to keep students safe for all the schools. Now, of course, $3.5 billion sounds like a lot of money, but when you spread it out over all the school districts in the entire country, I don't know where Sachem would fit into that. But to your knowledge, gentlemen, is any of that money, how much do you think of that money would be coming to us to offset that 300,000? I know you can't give me an exact figure
right now because the way I've seen everything so far, it looks like the money is going to roll directly to the states, and New York State is just going to use that as a mechanism to offset the cut that they're giving us in next year's budget. You know, so they're cutting 12, 13 million, whatever the number was, off of our foundation aid, and then, oh, by the way, here's your COVID relief money, which just happens to match the cut.
Are they going to be allowed to do that? Because looking at this bill, there is money in that set aside to help the states to prevent them to have to make that cut as a separate line.
Yeah, the CARES Act money worked exactly the same way. You know, we got our state aid numbers last year, minus $1,002,500 approximately, and below that negative was plus $1,002,500 in CARES Act money. So they just deducted it off our state aid and then added it. So, I mean, people were under the impression the CARES Act money was additional monies to help offset costs, when actually it was just money coming from a different pocket.
So there's a good chance then this $300,000 is not going to be refundable from any help from the federal government.
Well, these monies are being spent this year. Those monies are going into the 21-22 budget.
All right.
So it all depend on if there's going to need to be an additional purchase over the summer, whether we're still in this moving into the fall. Hopefully that's not the case. I mean, we did get our $1 million in CARES Act money. And after going through a rigorous process, which took the whole school year, literally last Wednesday, we finally got word that our plan was approved. And earlier this week, Dr. Pelletieri signed off on the reimbursement request. So we'll see how long it takes them to give us back our $1 million. But that $1 million was, you know, the initial Chromebook purchase that we did,
right.
The initial PPE, the disinfectant, the earlier desk purchases, the earlier desk shield purchases, things like that.
Okay, is there any cost, just out of curiosity, is there any cost involved in, let's say in the fall, these restrictions, distance restrictions are lifted on removing all these desks and getting rid of all these shields?
Well, that would be the hope, that we hopefully lose these shields.
Is there any cost factor though involved?
Any cost?
Yeah.
No. I mean, just obviously we'd have to try to find a way to hopefully safely recycle these things instead of throwing 13,000 pieces of plastic in the garbage.
All right, that's it.
Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Yes, we are. And there we'll be using, again, specialized masks, shields, bell covers, you name it. We're going to go out of our way. So we can move kids closer than the 12 feet, and that's what we're going to do.
Alex, can I ask board members to talk into the microphone, because I can't hear anybody that doesn't do that. I didn't hear any of that was just said.
Mr. Keenan, that question was just about music, and are we going to move kids? Are we able to move kids using safeguards closer than 12 feet in music? And the answer is yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Yes, Meredith?
As spring arrives, because it's on its way, trust me, all of our secondary schools, do they have a place that our students could eat outside in a safer manner to help out a little? I know
All
North
of them. I
does.
was over at Sagamore today. I know he has an outdoor area. I was over at North recently. I know they have an outdoor area, but I don't know that they all, Mr. O'Keefe, like a clear designated outdoor area for eating. Not necessarily. They can move, they'll start to move phys ed classes outside and things like that. I mean, if they can get inventive and want to come and talk to us about something, we can look at some things, but they're not all clearly delineated or anything like that. Some schools do.
Thank you very much, guys.
Mhm.
We're going to move on to number 2, visitors. There are none tonight. Number 3, personnel, teachers, consent agenda A through F. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Matthew, seconded by Jimmy. Any questions? Yes.
So I have a question, because there are 4 senior trip coordinators on here, each getting a stipend of $26.43. I know that we had some discussion about senior trip possibly looking a little different, but maybe being on the horizon. So if we can answer that. And also I would just like to ask if we can break out those 4 separate from the whole consent agenda.
I'm going to ask Mrs. Hines actually to speak to the senior trip. I know you've been working closely with the advisors.
Hi, Meredith. So the senior trip actually, yes, we're not doing our traditional Washington, D.C. trip, but all of our senior trip coordinators have been working with us to come up with day trips. So instead of the 3 days at Washington, instead they might be doing, a few different day trips. That stipend is not for overnight or anything else. It's more for the logistics and the planning, which takes quite a bit of time. But they're talking about such things as, a day event at one of the state parks for them to have a DJ, music, things like that, obviously socially distant. Adventure Park, which is a really great place. I brought my own kids there. The Bronx Zoo and Botanical Gardens. So, it's really about just making sure that the seniors can still celebrate in a safe way, but we will be doing it more as a day trip.
Are these things that we feel that we'll definitely be able to bring to fruition? Because the last thing I'd want to see happen is get the seniors excited about stuff that could possibly take place, and then it doesn't, like so many things that have already happened.
Yep, we've been talking with our senior trip coordinators. We met, obviously as a group, as cabinet. We feel very comfortable with these trips. We're also talking about things about prom and all the other items that we really want to make sure that our seniors are able to, our lovely seniors here, are able to experience in a modified way, but still can do it.
There's always that shake your head caveat, right, Meredith, with the unknown. But we're planning ahead. We're looking ahead to the spring, to the end of the year. We want these kids to be back. We want them to have a great time. So we're pushing to try and make sure we get these events in a safe way.
That's great, and it's amazing, and I'm very proud of all of that work. I just still feel like those 4 should be broken out separate so we can each vote. It's not that I don't want the seniors to have everything. I would love for them to have everything. I just feel like there's even some people on here that have raised concern about the seniors being together, and I just feel about all the children being together, and I just feel like it would be an irresponsible move for us to approve that and then let everybody down again. And we've already been called irresponsible, so I want to avoid that again.
I have no problem breaking it out separately. I just think that I left it in because A, I didn't think it was appropriate that we had the conversation through email. And B, this is what proactive action looks like. Like, we can't just wait 2 months and say, oh, look, let's have a senior trip, and we'll just call the buses and call the parks and call the botanical gardens and call the DJ, and then all of a sudden it's done. Like, if it doesn't happen, the work has to still get done. And fairly, that's far less money than they probably should get for the amount of work that's about to be put in. I mean, I just did 30 days of coaching and I got my full stipend. This is a lot of planning, and it's only $2,600. And while if it's about individual people, I have no problem pulling it out and we can vote on it. But if it's about the work, I think that we're looking at it the wrong way. Matthew?
Yeah, there's a lot of planning that goes involved in these trips. I'm involved in the senior trip for my school, and the amount of planning is a lot of time, a lot of effort. And again, you can't decide, okay, we're gonna have a senior trip and you have 2 weeks to plan it. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of planning that has to go in. So.
And if I may, we're not talking about just one overall trip. We're talking about several trips. And these people, a lot of our senior trip quarters have already been doing work without getting paid for it. And in all fairness, right, we've asked our club advisors to think out of the box. We approved everybody. We let them start forward, not really knowing definitely how it was going to be executed. But thankfully, as Dr. Pelletier has said, people thought out of the box. We continue to go. We monitor it, throughout the week. And I know we feel confident that our senior trip quarters have given us some really great examples of what we can do. And we can certainly bring it to the board to share as the weeks go on.
So the $2,600 times 4, if for whatever reason we cannot do a senior trip, they still get the $2,600 because they've put in the work then at that point, and the seniors don't get the trips.
Well, I think we're trying to look positively and making it so that there's some sort of experience. And again, even if it's to just a state park and we have to break it up where it's, smaller groups, we're committed to bringing an experience to our seniors. I think it's only fair that these folks have definitely been putting in hours already. And I estimate it would be a lot more hours for them to come.
And do seniors have input on this?
Well, I don't see one of our senior trip coordinators here, but I know they work very closely with the seniors. I mean, Cam, I don't know if you guys are hearing anything about it, but our advisors, that's their role. That's their job, is to be working with the students on that. But, we could certainly ask them ways that they are, connecting with the students.
Yeah, please.
So Erin, normally the stipend would be strictly for the senior trip.
Right.
And that would be a 3-day trip that goes to Washington. They go to Busch Gardens, and
correct,
and
yep.
come back to,
Mm-hmm.
The level of work that they're doing and planning these other trips, is it equivalent to the same level of work that they're doing in a senior trip? I mean, obviously.
I think we're talking apples and oranges, right? I mean, it's not, but yes, I mean, now we're asking them to plan 3 separate trips in modified ways. And just like everything we're doing here tonight, it is sometimes, double the amount of work. But I think, it's not about the hours. It's about the fact that they are still doing this work. The stressor point is, will it be able to come to fruition? Of course, we can't sign on the dotted line. But the fact is that they're working to make sure that we have something in place. And just like we've done for our coaches and our club advisors, I don't see why we would treat this differently. But of course, that's why we're talking about it.
And it would be a very good chance that 8 trips would happen. Possibly, you mentioned the Bronx Zoo,
Mm-hmm.
And possibly in the Mentor. So,
right.
Similar to, other than the trip to Washington and the overnight stay in the hotel, the trips are similar in style and,
Yes, absolutely. And I think that they've really, again, thought out of the box. They've worked together. They've met with us several times. We'd be happy to share as it progresses so that you know exactly what's been chosen and what we're doing. I will contact our senior trip coordinators going off of what they shared of how they're accessing or speaking with the seniors to gauge what they would like to see as well. Mm-hmm. I could tell you maybe the apprehension of reaching out to the students too much is because they don't want to, let anybody down if one particular trip works out and another one doesn't.
No, that's exactly why it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I've had that conversation with people. They don't want to go out to kids yet until we know we have a go-ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of why I was surprised when it was here, because now the public sees it and automatically, wow, senior trip. And, then if we do put in all this work and $10,000 in stipends, and then it doesn't happen. That would be pretty heartbreaking. And
they are trying to mimic it as close to the senior trip as possible. Some of the suggestions were having something at a park where they had a DJ and food.
Right.
So it would be similar to their banquet. They're trying to do like instead of going to the amusement park down in Virginia, doing something here, and then going to a historical site like they do in Washington. So they're working with Gerber Tours very closely. And I can tell you from my experience, this would be a lot more work than the one senior trip. Their biggest thing there would be putting them in the hotels and the busing. Now they have to worry about double the amount of busing 3 times. The only thing taken off their plate would be the rooming, but they would be putting a lot of work into it. And I know they've been on the phone constantly between back and forth with North and East, but also with Gerber Tours, trying to make sure this is done safely and smart, that it will happen in the best way possible.
Mr. Florio and Mr. Clayton, are we able to pull those 4 for a separate vote? Is that okay? I don't know if we put it as a different letter, but.
Sure. I mean, any item on an executive session agenda at the request of the board and with the approval of the board, you could pull out for a separate vote.
Yeah, again, I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable voting
That's
and
fine.
saying no to some of it, but they wanted to
Perfectly
say yes to
permissible.
some.
There's been a motion to move that out. You can have a second, move it out, and vote on it separately.
Alex, can I just jump in a minute?
Please, Laura. I'm sorry, I didn't see
So, Erin and Patty, the only way to give our seniors an opportunity to possibly have a trip is for these advisors to start working now and doing what they're doing and putting in the work and doing all of this. And that gives our seniors a shot. If we don't approve it now, then like Matthew said, they're not going to have enough time to plan a trip or 3 trips of the magnitude of the number of students we have. Is that pretty much correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
They're also working with Gerber Tours for next year.
Yes.
That's part of what they have to do as the advisors, is plan ahead to book everything a year out.
Matthew?
Yeah, I would say just, it is hands down more work planning these 3-day trips next to one overnight at one place. Planning a trip to Washington, D.C., you got your key 4 places that they're going to visit, but it's all condensed, one hotel, one area. Trying to fill a day trip and make it meaningful for these seniors, that's a lot of work. And it's not like they're going to start doing the work. I'm hearing that they've been doing the work.
Yes.
So it's ludicrous. I don't even know why this is even an issue. They have to get paid, period.
so they've been doing the work, I guess, as part of their
They've been
stipend
doing
from
the work.
last year. If we're going to
Yeah.
say that they're doing it for next year too, is that how that works?
I mean, in all fairness, we started having conversation over the summertime as our teachers started coming back. And, just to go back, I just don't want to put out the misnomer that it's going to be 3 exactly. Like, each school, as they look at it, safety wise, they may decide 2 and 2. No matter what, the equivalent work is to what the stipend is and has always been. It's just a matter of how we're going to modify the trips for the seniors so that they can enjoy it safely.
I just want to be sure that if we're saying, just a couple weeks ago, we were saying, don't bring all the students back. And now we're saying, cram them all on buses and send them out on a
Yeah,
trip.
the world
It
has
sends a
changed over the
different
past few
message.
weeks. That is absolutely for sure. But again, we'll monitor it. We can share it with you as we go along through our Friday packet. And if there's any questions at all, we'd be happy to answer them.
And each trip would be open to the entire senior class of that school for each trip. It's not like you're breaking them into trips.
No, it'd be for that particular school.
Great, thank you.
We have a motion and a second to.
Can I, one more question, Alex?
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want, for clarity purposes, the question on this issue came up because at least I was unaware of what Erin just said, that these individuals were working on other trips. So I don't want anybody thinking that anybody was not wanting to pay these people for what they're working on now. I don't think there was just any information out there at the time when this agenda item appeared. I think the question came in, are we going to have a senior trip or not? And then the answer was, well, probably not. And then these people are going to get paid even though we're not going to have a senior trip. But tonight now a further explanation was given, a rather thorough one, which brought light into this entire agenda item. So I really have no problem with it. My questions were all answered.
Thank you, Jim. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Do we have any other motions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is,
Abstention.
okay, 2 abstentions, Meredith and Bill. We are on page 4 in the middle, number 4, personnel, support staff, consent agenda A through D. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Rob, seconded by Jimmy. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 5, other appointments. Board committee member. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Laura, seconded by Bill. Any other motions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Number 6 is budget transfers. Letter A. Can I please have a motion? Motion by
motion.
Matthew, seconded by Rob. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday, March 10th at 7:30 p.m. right here in the boardroom, or possibly hybrid. Can I have a motion and a second to move into executive session for collective negotiations and sale or lease of real property? Motion by Rob, seconded by Bill. All in favor? Good night, everyone.